In a world where Bruce Wayne is shot and killed instead of his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne are set down a dark path that leads to Martha becoming this world's Joker, leaving Thomas to become Flashpoint Batman, Knight of Vengeance. What's up guys, Roman from RNS Entertainment here, and welcome to another episode of Comic History, the weekly series where I explain and retell the iconic storylines, origins, and events in the world of comics. This week, we're diving into the world of Flashpoint, the dark dystopian alternate world created when Barry Allen Flash, the fastest man alive, travels back in time to prevent his mother's murder, causing the timeline to be entirely changed and a much darker world to exist in its place. One of the differing events in Flashpoint is that when a young Bruce Wayne and his parents walk through what would go on to be known as Crime Alley, Bruce is murdered instead of Thomas and Martha, resulting in a much different Gotham City and a very different Batman and Joker. In this video, we're going to be covering the storyline of Flashpoint Batman and Joker, told in Batman Knight of Vengeance, a 3-issue limited series created to further flesh out the world of Flashpoint and spend some more time with these characters. Our story begins with a young psychiatrist attempting to evaluate Thomas Wayne, who grumbles at her statement that he has anger issues before smartassedly outsmarting her statements in order to prove them wrong. He tells her that this is a waste of his time, as she's only there to evaluate his acceptability to be renewed for insurance on behalf of a company he pays a lot of money to. And once she's entirely pissed off, she stamps his file for approval as he shows her the door. On the way downstairs, Thomas meets with Oswald Cobblepot, in our universe known as the Penguin, who works for Thomas and assists him with managing Wayne Casino, which Thomas had opened to draw crime to him in order to manage it most effectively. Once outside, Thomas meets with his best friend and partner in his attempt to control the crime in Gotham City, Jim Gordon, and the two take Thomas's limo to meet with Judge Harvey Dent, who we know as Two-Face, whose 2 children have been kidnapped by the Joker. On the way there, Thomas muses about how useless Arkham is, as the Joker always manages to escape. When they meet with Dent, he rants and raves at Thomas and Gordon, demanding to know why the Joker hasn't been permanently dealt with by Batman, as he had Hush, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and countless other insane monsters of Gotham. He says that Thomas Wayne had privatized the police force in Gotham as a way to more effectively fight crime, and tells him that if his children aren't returned to him alive, that he would shut Wayne down, from his casino to his numerous hotels, and end his involvement with the governing of the city and its police force. Thomas and Jim return to Thomas's apartment, with Thomas asking Jim if he could change the world, make it a better place, would he? This is poignant because the story takes place after Barry has come to Batman for help, but before Batman resolved to actually go along with him. They descend to where Thomas has his Batsuit while talking about possible leads on the Joker, with multiple counts of homeless and otherwise derelict people being dragged into what they refer to as hell. Batman goes to investigate, going through the Gotham sewers until he finds several half-dead people trapped in the darkness, with Killer Croc rising up out of the water behind him. Croc brandishes a machete and swings it at Batman, who blocks it with a pipe before being slammed into the water by his throat. Batman remembers the night Bruce was shot and pushes his thumb into Killer Croc's eye, causing him to recoil back long enough for Batman to grab his machete and jam it into his skull, leaving the dead villain to fall backwards into the sewer water as his victims look out in horror. Elsewhere, we see Martha Wayne as the Joker in a house with Dent's son and daughter, telling them that the world is a bad place, and that's why they play games, and that when they were done having fun, Batman will show up, being the ever-constant purpose to her madness and evil. The next day, Gordon calls Oswald Cobblepot, who says that Thomas is still asleep, having several cracked ribs and deep tissue trauma, which Cobblepot says is a quiet night for Thomas Wayne. And Jim brings up what Batman asked him, about changing the world if he could. Gordon takes that to mean that he should be doing more, and feels as if he doesn't measure up to Batman as his best friend. Jim then goes to meet with Oracle, who may have leads on the Joker, finding out from her that there is a trail leading from a dead body with the signs of Joker's MO to a car parked near Wayne Manor. As Jim pets one of the many cats in the room with Oracle, we see that in the Flashpoint world, Oracle is Selina Kyle, who in our world is Catwoman, having been paralyzed seemingly from the neck down by the Joker and severely traumatized, with Barbara Gordon never existing due to Gordon's focus on the crime running rampant in Gotham. Selina cries and says that even if they find Dent's children, even if Thomas does everything he can to make it right by them, that when it comes to the Joker, nothing will ever be right again. Gordon goes to investigate Wayne Manor, lying to Thomas on the phone and saying that he's investigating a body at the morgue, and telling Thomas to let him handle this one, walking up the stairs of Wayne Manor to confront the Joker himself. Meanwhile, Batman goes to a local bar to interrogate people for information on the body that was pulled out of the river, which happened to be a pizza delivery guy, and punches Harvey Bullock, who in Flashpoint is a worthless alcoholic and not a member of the police force, in the side, though Renee Montoya, who is the bartender and also not a cop, swings a bat at him to try to protect Harvey. Montoya reveals that the Joker had been there recently, and had offered everyone at the bar a slice of pizza, with everyone except one new employee knowing better than to accept anything from the Joker. She takes Batman downstairs and shows him the employee, who after having a slice of the pizza had been maniacally laughing ever since. Batman says that there is nothing anyone can do for him, and snaps his neck to end his suffering. Gordon makes his way into Wayne Manor, which has been abandoned and in disrepair, and finds the Joker with two guns pointed at Dent's son, with what sounds like muffled laughter coming from her mouth. Gordon leaps into the room and takes a shot at her, hitting her square in the chest, and as she falls, he sees that in actuality Martha had tied up Dent's daughter on top of a chair, put her trench coat on her, and tape on her mouth, and the muffled laughter Gordon heard was actually her sobs. Gordon holds the girl in his arms and begs her not to die, and wasting no time, Joker walks up behind him and drags a knife across his throat, leaving Gordon collapsing in a spray of blood. Meanwhile, Batman has gotten in contact with Oracle, who has told him about Gordon already having the information on the Joker, and Batman floors the Batmobile at full speed towards his old home. Gordon's cell phone begins transmitting a signal, and Oracle patches Batman into a video feed showing Dent's traumatized son wearing Gordon's glasses as Jim hopelessly tries to crawl for his gun. Martha's insane laughter echoes over the broadcast, and she stomps on his hand before he gets to the gun as Jim dies a horrific death from his throat being slit. Thomas barrels through the gates of Wayne Manor, jumping out of the car and yelling, "Martha!" Batman kicks in the door and tries to help Dent's children, finding the girl still barely alive, and pouring something on her wound to stop the bleeding. Though as she says she's cold, Thomas flashes back to the night Bruce was killed. As Bruce is bleeding out in the alleyway, Thomas desperately tries to hold the blood in as he yells to Martha to go and find help. He tries to do CPR on Bruce, but when Martha comes back with a police officer, their son is already dead, and Martha's scream echoes back into the present, where she leaps at him with a hammer, hitting Batman again and again in the skull with it as he uses his body to shield the children. In the flashback, months after Bruce's death, Martha still isn't responding to therapy, and Thomas tries to help her accept things, saying that he misses Bruce too, along with Martha's smile. Not knowing what else to do, Thomas decides to go after Joe Chill and get revenge for Bruce, paying off an informant and following Chill into an alleyway where he beats his son's killer to death with his bare hands. Thomas then returns to the manor and tells Martha that he's dead, and Martha turns around saying, "Look, I'm smiling," revealing that in her insanity, Martha had sliced the edges of her mouth open, laughing like a lunatic while the doctors drag her away. In the present, Joker keeps hitting Batman with the hammer until he finally grabs her arm and drags both of them out of the window, with her landing on top of him outside. Martha tells Thomas what a failure he is, and when he agrees, she hits him one last time with the hammer before running into the rain, cackling and leaping around as he chases her. Batman finally grabs Joker, who tells him that all she wants is a world where he doesn't exist, and Thomas starts to reiterate the scene in the alleyway, where a man, woman, and their son cut through the alley and 2 shots are fired. Martha screams at him to shut up as he continues, saying that in this version, the man and the woman are killed, and their son lives on. Thomas tells Martha that he has a chance to make that story real, to change reality, and says that as insane as it is, he needs to know from her if he should. She cries as the face paint runs down her face, and tells Thomas to promise her that he would. He agrees, and the two kiss before she asks what happens to Bruce in this alternate reality, and Thomas says that he follows in his father's footsteps. She asks if Bruce becomes a doctor, and when Thomas says no, she loses it, realizing that he meant Bruce would be Batman as well. Martha runs screaming and laughing into the woods, with Thomas chasing after her until she falls through a familiar hole in the ground, with bats bursting out through the opening. Thomas looks down into what would go on to be the Batcave, with the Joker's dying words trailing off as she tries to say that the world is a bad joke. And that wraps up Batman Night of Vengeance, a very dark and fucked up story following Thomas and Martha Wayne as Batman and Joker within the dystopian world of Flashpoint. Although this story is written by Brian Azzarello, who I really don't like as a writer, I do really like this story and how it shows how wrong and fucked up the Flashpoint world is. Flashpoint Batman is actually my favorite version of Batman in the comics. Thomas Wayne is just so fucking cool and different as Batman than Bruce, and really works as an alternate reality where anything could happen. We're actually going to be revisiting Thomas Wayne Batman and the Flashpoint world this Wednesday in The Button Part 3, possibly for the last time ever, as The Button promises to finally retcon and change Flashpoint and the effects it had in bringing in the New 52, with DC Rebirth finally moving forward. So if you enjoyed Flashpoint, Thomas Wayne as Batman, or this video, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and make sure to tune in this Wednesday for my Comic Rants episode on The Button Part 3. Also, if you want to see more awesome Batman stories and origins, check out the Batman History playlist on my channel, or the Comic History playlist for every episode we've done so far. If there's a storyline, origin, or event that you're dying to see an episode on, you can even commission any story you want by donating to my Patreon, which helps a ton in supporting the channel and ensuring I can keep making great content for you guys. Also, make sure to tune in live tonight on RNS Entertainment at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of my comic book and movie-themed podcast, the Comics Crossover Podcast, where myself and Jim from Comics Examiner will be discussing a number of topics, including Young Justice Season 3 being announced, a live-action Titans show, and a lot more. So it's going to be a great episode, guys, and we'll see you all then. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to subscribe to my gaming channel as well, RNS Gaming. Check out my social media via the links in the description box below, and I'll see you all next time.